On this episode of Cake Boss, we want a cake that does exactly what our car does. These low riders like, oop, look at that. Look at that. All we got to do is make a cake do this. We're good. He was once an icon of American reality television, globally known as the Cake Boss. But behind that title was a string of tragedies no one could have foreseen. A sudden accident nearly cost him the use of both hands, along with moments teetering on the edge of despair. How did Buddy Valastro manage to overcome it all? And what remains after everything? The real story is only just beginning. Buddy Valastro was born in 1977 in Hoboken, New Jersey, into an Italian-American family with 5 children. As the youngest, he grew up immersed in the kitchen atmosphere, helping out at Carlos Bakery run by his father, Buddy Sr. At just 11 years old, Buddy was brought into the kitchen by his father, starting with basic tasks like washing trays and mixing dough, then gradually learning to pipe icing, shape designs, and coordinate colors. But no one expected that only a few years later, this young apprentice would have to carry the entire family business. In 1994, a major turning point struck. Buddy's father passed away from cancer, leaving the bakery and more than 30 employees behind without a transition plan. At the time, Buddy was only 17 years old, hadn't finished high school, had no experience managing a business, and had never imagined he would be the one solely responsible for keeping Carlos Bakery alive. There was no time to hesitate. He had to drop out of school and take over everything, from production operations to personnel management, while still not even of legal adult age. Carlos Bakery was not a large shop at the time, but it held symbolic value for the local Italian community. Keeping regular customers, maintaining quality, and retaining the skilled staff were 3 challenges Buddy had to tackle simultaneously. In a later interview, he admitted, "I didn't have a choice. If I didn't step up, the bakery would shut down, and I couldn't let that happen." Instead of continuing his education, Buddy chose to learn the trade under real-world pressure. He studied the market, explored trends in designer wedding cakes, which were booming in major cities at the time. From there, he revamped designs, invested in decorating techniques, and began featuring Carlos Bakery in wedding magazines across New Jersey and New York. This was the first step in transitioning the small bakery away from its traditional model into a new playing field. Buddy's talent went beyond baking techniques. It lay also in his ability to lead in a demanding environment. He had to convince longtime bakers to accept orders from someone not even old enough to drink. At the same time, he built an internal training system with strict requirements for every detail, from the thickness of fondant to the precision of color ratios. This gradually established a stable framework capable of competing with major brands in the region. Alongside managing the bakery, he also challenged himself in televised competitions. After 3 failed attempts, he won the Food Network Challenge with a $10,000 prize. This victory not only validated his individual skills but also opened the door to media exposure, a launchpad for future opportunities. Carlos Bakery began to grow. Customer numbers increased year over year, and custom wedding cake orders tripled within just 2 years. Buddy reinvested the revenue into purchasing modern equipment and hiring younger bakers, those he could train directly in his own style. Although he had to grow up quickly and live under constant pressure, Buddy never saw it as misfortune. He saw it as a responsibility that anyone in the family would have chosen if they were in his shoes at the time. To him, Carlos Bakery was more than a business. It was the culmination of his parents' life work, the pride of the immigrant Italian community, and a vessel for irreplaceable memories. But all that effort was only the beginning. A call from the TLC television team completely altered the trajectory of Buddy Valastro's career, taking him from a small bakery in New Jersey to a national broadcast and into an entirely different world, the beginning of a sweet empire. In 2009, Buddy Valastro officially entered the most explosive growth phase of his career when the show Cake Boss premiered on TLC. Instead of showcasing recipes or kitchen secrets, the show focused entirely on the day-to-day operations at Carlos Bakery, from receiving orders and designing cakes to delivery and family conflicts. This reality model generated impact from its very first season. Cake Boss quickly transcended the framework of a typical food entertainment show. Not only did it feature cakes with sizes and designs far beyond conventional standards, it also portrayed a workplace environment that was close-knit, hectic, and deeply infused with immigrant Italian culture. From candid conversations to unscripted family disputes, everything created a distinct appeal. Viewers tuned in not just for the cakes, but to watch Buddy, a man under constant pressure who still managed to stay cheerful and maintain balance between work and family. Over the course of 11 seasons, from 2009 to 2020, Cake Boss became a standalone television brand. Buddy was no longer just a familiar face in Hoboken. He had become a national icon. The show aired in over 180 countries, translated into dozens of languages, and catapulted Carlos Bakery to an unprecedented scale. Along with that came a surge in orders, with tourists flocking to Hoboken just to take photos in front of the original storefront. Not stopping at Cake Boss, Buddy continued expanding his television portfolio. Next Great Baker, 2010, was a competition to find new baking talent. Kitchen Boss, 2011, brought him into the home cooking space. Buddy's Bakery Rescue, 2013, and Bakery Boss were platforms where he helped struggling bakeries on the brink of closure. By 2019, he stepped into a head-to-head showdown with renowned chef Duff Goldman in Buddy vs. Duff, a competitive series focused on artistic cake making. These shows solidified Buddy's image as both an artisan and a well-rounded entrepreneur. He was not only the head baker but also the face of the brand, a trainer, a motivator, and the cultural architect within his company. The Carlos Bakery brand expanded quickly across several states, from Connecticut and Pennsylvania to Florida, Texas, and Nevada. Alongside it was the launch of Buddy V's Ristorante and the Buddy V's Events Planning Service, which began in 2014. To meet market demands, Buddy developed a packaged cake production line, launched an e-commerce platform, and offered nationwide shipping services. Revenue increased steadily each year, raising his personal net worth to approximately $10 million by 2023. But behind that rapid growth was an intense work schedule, constant creative pressure, and a filming calendar with almost no downtime. The pressure gradually built up until 2014 when Buddy was involved in an unfortunate incident. He was arrested by police in New York for driving under the influence. The incident made headlines the same day and triggered a wave of mixed public reactions. Without evasion, Buddy issued a public apology on social media. "I thought I was okay to drive, but I was wrong. I put others at risk. I'm very disappointed in myself." After the apology, he stepped away from television briefly to restore his image and focus on internal operations. The incident served as a wake-up call. From then on, Buddy began reallocating his time between work and family, limiting participation in unnecessary projects and focusing more on internal training at the bakery. At the same time, he increased fan engagement through social media, especially Facebook, where his fan page attracted over 6 million followers and became one of Carlos Bakery's most effective communication channels. As of 2020, Buddy had achieved what few in the baking industry ever could, maintaining large-scale production while becoming a global television figure. But then, while at his peak, a sudden accident at his own home nearly brought his career to a halt. The incident happened so fast that no one had time to react, and within a matter of seconds, the hands that built a dessert empire were severely damaged. In September 2020, Buddy Valastro suffered a severe accident right in the basement of his home in Montville, New Jersey. While repairing the family's bowling machine, a device used frequently for relaxation, a technical malfunction caused a heavy metal rod from the system to suddenly shoot out and pierce straight through his right hand. In that critical moment, Buddy's two sons, Buddy 3 and Marco, had to act immediately. Using a saw and repair tools, they dismantled the machine to free their father's hand. Upon arrival at the hospital, doctors identified complex damage affecting tendons, nerves, and motor muscles. The first surgery, lasting over 2 hours, was only the beginning of a treatment process that would span nearly 2 years. In total, Buddy had to undergo 5 consecutive surgeries to reconstruct his right hand. Each operation was spaced a few months apart, combined with hours of physical therapy every day. Doctors warned that full recovery was unlikely, as the muscles in his right hand had been severely damaged, especially in the fine motor skills required for holding icing bags, piping cream, and intricate decorating. During the post-surgery phase, Buddy nearly vanished from the media. All operations at Carlos Bakery shifted into minimal mode. Television shows were postponed indefinitely. In a state of uncertainty, Buddy told USA Today, "I used to think I'd never return to the kitchen again. Not because of the pain, but because I didn't know if my hand would still be the hand of a baker." Mild depression surfaced during the early months of recovery. For someone who had built an entire empire with his own hands, being unable to open a box or hold a cake cutter was difficult to accept. Buddy didn't fall into despair, but he chose silence, rarely appearing in public, refraining from posting on social media, limiting interaction. He withdrew to focus on one goal, regaining full hand function. Family remained his support system. Lisa, his wife of 2 decades, was not only his caregiver but also stepped in to run the bakery. The children took turns assisting with his physical therapy, from holding water cups, rotating wrists to peeling fruit. Notably, Buddy III, the second son, frequently accompanied his father to sessions and started taking on simple tasks at the bakery. By April 2021, Buddy announced he had regained approximately 75% of his right hand's function. Though still unable to bake full-time, he began practicing basic techniques: whipping cream, coloring, and simple shaping. Each attempt was a neurological and emotional test, as a minor misstep could ruin an entire decorating process. He said, "I don't need everything to be perfect. I just need to feel my hands again." The recovery journey continued through late 2023 when he reappeared in the trailer for the show Cake Dynasty. Buddy confirmed that he had regained 95% of his right hand strength. Although he still needed time to fully control fine motor movements, he was able to work in the kitchen, train his children, and handle large orders. "I'm back. Not because I've completely recovered, but because I can't wait any longer," he said in his first interview after the accident. The fan community quickly responded with positivity. On Facebook, posts updating Buddy's recovery drew hundreds of thousands of shares and comments. Many saw him as a symbol of resilience, a testament to overcoming adversity through personal effort and family support. Though his hands were no longer as agile as before, Buddy's spirit had never weakened. He adapted his work process, utilized assistive tools, and wasn't hesitant to delegate complex tasks to others. More importantly, he never once considered leaving the profession. Physical recovery was only part of the journey. After regaining use of his hands, Buddy Valastro began writing a new chapter, one where he was no longer the sole protagonist but the person passing everything down to the next generation within his own family. Reviving Cake Dynasty, he chose to return with a new project, a reality show completely different from Cake Boss. No longer centered on giant cakes, but on the journey of passing down the craft to the next generation and laying the foundation for the future of Carlos Bakery. At the end of 2023, Cake Dynasty officially premiered on the A&E network. Cake Dynasty did not repeat the old formula. Instead of focusing solely on bakery operations, this time the show revealed the full scope of transition after the accident, from business operations to internal training strategies. The spotlight was no longer just on Buddy but on his entire family, the ones who had stood by his side, supported him, and now officially stepped into the role of successors. In the show, he set a clear goal: to build a new generation of capable leaders with vision while preserving the core spirit of Carlos Bakery. Each episode presented a real-life scenario, from a difficult order or customer incident to internal team debates, where his children had to learn how to make decisions and take responsibility before the group. Alongside internal training, Buddy also launched a series of new projects to restructure the system after a period of stagnation. He reinstated nationwide cake delivery service, developed automated cake vending machines at busy commercial hubs, and released seasonal holiday-themed cake product lines. Some standout cakes from Cake Dynasty gained attention, such as the 50th anniversary tribute cake for Racehorse Secretariat's victory, or a custom birthday cake for Neil Patrick Harris. Organizationally, as of 2015, Carlos Bakery retained its 2 main locations in Hoboken and Marlton, New Jersey. Branches previously opened in Las Vegas, Texas, and California were restructured under a flexible model, reducing physical footprint and focusing on takeout and online retail. Buddy proactively slowed down expansion to ensure quality control and maintain brand identity. What made Cake Dynasty distinct was not technique but the value of transition. Buddy did not place himself as the main character but stepped back into the role of mentor and guardian of standards. In one episode, he challenged Buddy 3 to complete an entire large-scale event order without any interference. The task was executed with remarkable precision, and afterward Buddy simply said, "You did it, and that gives me peace of mind." The public response to Cake Dynasty was overwhelmingly positive. Not only did longtime fans of Cake Boss return, but many younger viewers also began following the show to learn how a family brand could be reborn in a time of crisis. Major publications such as USA Today, People, and A&E described the program as a strategic step forward, transforming a traditional image into a platform of inspiration. None of this, from the comeback to the long-term vision, could have happened without the most important foundation, the people who stood by him. Not for fame, not for profit, but for family, where every beginning came from a humble kitchen called home. Life beyond success. Buddy has been married to Lisa Valastro since 2001. Once an office employee in the biotech industry, Lisa became the woman behind the entire backstage operation of Carlos Bakery, taking on management, logistics, and serving as the bridge between business and family. During Buddy's recovery after the accident, it was Lisa who carried the full weight of operations, ensuring the business stayed on track. Their family includes 4 children: Sophia, Buddy 3, Marco, and Carlo. All 4 grew up in the bakery, starting out playing in the kitchen and eventually taking part in real operations. Sophia, the eldest daughter, handles media content, events, and marketing. Buddy 3 trains directly in the kitchen and is gradually stepping into the lead production role. Marco and Carlo, though still young, have begun learning basic baking techniques and understanding the fundamentals of running a family business. In an interview with A&E, Buddy affirmed, "I don't ask my kids to take over. I just give them the chance to understand what makes this work special. If they choose to stay, it's by their own will." But in reality, all 4 have actively stepped in, fully participated, and even proposed improvements Buddy had never considered. The transition unfolded as naturally as an old recipe being passed down, unchanged in flavor, into new hands. Beyond his wife and children, the person who most influenced Buddy's professional mindset and way of life was his mother, Mary Valastro. She wasn't only the keeper of traditional recipes but, as Buddy once described, the heart of the bakery. Her discipline, orderliness, and high standards became the foundational values that guided every generation. When she passed away in 2017 after a long battle with ALS, the entire family paused all media activity to mourn and regain emotional stability. Her death wasn't just a personal loss. It created a void in the business no one could truly fill. But it also forced the remaining members to mature. Lisa embraced many of the values her mother-in-law left behind. The children gradually came to understand why this bakery was more than a business. It was a living preservation of family culture. In a special episode of Cake Dynasty, Buddy recreated the first birthday cake his mother ever taught him to make. No elaborate decorations, no bold colors, just a layer of white icing with simple red lettering. He said, "This was the first cake that made me feel like I could be a baker." And that was the moment everything started. His family not only helped him recover but also reminded him never to lose sight of the reason he chose baking in the first place. Buddy Valastro has gone through moments no one wishes to face. But instead of stopping, he chose to start again, with his family, with his passion, and with the responsibility to a legacy he inherited. If Buddy's journey has stirred something in you, share this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below, because perhaps you too carry a story worth continuing.